This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I say we're down to Jackie and I. Number one on here, which we have Bill here for, the traffic study. What I'd really like to do is get, as I said, Dan Kelleher and Mark Galvin, you, whoever you guys feel in there, and just hash out whatever we didn't do yet for Janet. So that would be, what are we right now on Sunday would we charge?
Sunday for parking, Sundays are free.
All day.
Yes.
And off the top of your head, you got any recommendations on that? Leave it alone? Is it not a problem day?
I don't think it's a problem day. But we did talk about we've been working on this for quite a while. I know Brad's things are on here too, but we're talking about upping the prohibited parking, overnight parking from 25, all those to 35.
Okay, see, this would be under fees, right?
Yes, and then handicap from 130 to 150. And then I had a list of a whole bunch of things here.
Okay.
The other things that I'll address for them, but we have a lot of village employees that park down below, and I think it would be, since the village owns the parking lots, the village employees that park there need to park someplace should get a free permit.
Okay.
That's my opinion, but that's up to you guys.
I think Sharon hands out those little pink slips.
Yeah, but they should be able to get one that they hang on their mirror if they're up on the Main Street doing banking, village business, personal vehicle, they're driving their personal vehicle.
Oh, you mean like if they go up doing the business?
For that or for parking down there. I think we don't know what most of the vehicles are, but it's not, we can't dismiss the ticket. It would have to be done by the court. So if they had a permit, it would make things easier for village employees, in my opinion. And then we also talked about, I don't know if Brad came up with new numbers or not, but they were for boring and roadway cuts and sidewalk cuts. I don't know if that was taken care of or not. It was a list of fees from the last couple of years. Same with Kimball with the banners and the flags, that we had, how much we did.
We talked about that before. Did you make a decision to change on that, or is that?
That's up to those guys.
Okay.
This is the master list that I came out with a while ago.
I know last time you were saying that we were okay on that. I was just curious if that changed.
The only thing that, from me is for the proposed fees to go up, and then we also talked about changing the hours. So, and we can work with that, on that committee or whatever you want.
Sure. And the hours, last time, what was it? We
So
decided
we
9,
decided to go to 8, I think, wasn't it?
but start at 9 instead of 10.
Yes.
It was, okay.
9 to 8.
Okay.
And then the other thing that I don't know, I do actually have one is we did up the contractor parking.
Right.
I don't know what information they take down there. I did give them a form at one time. I don't know if they're using it or not. But I could give it to Mindy, and if she wants to, do that form, she can.
Okay.
But they should have something so that if somebody's parked someplace where they shouldn't up there, and there's a lot of spots that we can get a hold of them. That's all I'm really looking to do.
Okay.
Or Jason or whatever, get a hold of them, or, whoever, Bucky.
Okay.
when they're up there.
All right, great. How about the traffic study on West Valley? I think that was, the recommendation was just the speed limits. We did talk about that. Is you look into that? Do we have the signs up we should have? Should we have
So
more?
the signage is there. It's a question for Janet, whether it's legal or not, and that's something that the village should revisit on a whole. It's posted 30 miles an hour within the village, but I know Mirror Lake Drive isn't correctly, it's posted correctly, but we never did a resolution to make it 25. And the same thing that we have down on Mill Pond Drive, that we do get a lot of complaints on, we do run radar, and it's posted 25, but I think technically it's 30. I think that we need to have Janet draft a couple of ordinances, however you guys want to proceed with the streets. Also, under the 3 big shall be. We haven't posted.
I thought Dan said there was a simple way to tweak it.
But it has been.
But it hasn't been done yet, but it was 30 unless otherwise posted.
And that's fine, if that's how, we can do that, that's
We
fine.
want to drop it to 25 unless otherwise posted.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that the issue was the speed on West Valley, not necessarily posting.
Well, so West Valley, we only have control
I know.
up up to almost Cummins Road, and then from Oneida, well, a little bit south of Oneida, not much, all the way up to the end. But that section of the middle is state police. It's out of our jurisdiction. Actually, the new construction that's happening is out of our jurisdiction, and so is what's that other place called?
The electric place?
No, the.
On that other development?
Development, the Leonard Wood's place.
Oh,
Common.
Yeah,
that's-
that's actually out of our jurisdiction.
What's your opinion on 25 unless otherwise posted?
I think that works for everyone.
Okay.
That's a good solution.
Can you make that recommendation with the fees and the parking
Yep.
stuff for Janet? Okay, great. And then this one was way out ahead. We talked about it a little bit and was going to bring it up, but since we've only got one person doesn't know about it, and maybe Jason too, the closing of Main Street for the World University Games.
So the possibility exists, we've been on some calls in the interest of safety, they're talking about it, and obviously they want everything to run smoothly. Some of the problems that we had during the Olympics, of course, that's a long time ago, but we're getting people shuttled back and forth, the shuttles really didn't work. But they still feel like Main Street, we might have to do an alternate route.
The biggest concern comes from New York State Department of Homeland Security. They have to start obviously putting together risk assessments, kind of a snapshot of what we're looking at for protection, security-wise during the event. And they highly recommend, closing at least a portion of Main Street.
My next question to you is going to be, what's your recommendation? I think you just answered it.
Yeah. I mean, we did talk briefly about it, I guess, but I think,
But
similar to what happened to 80.
to where the new Marriott will be.
Right, exactly. Some way for them to get in the new Marriott and to One Main. I don't know.
So Chuck, there's a couple of scenarios that are playing out.
Sure.
Such as if the athletes village doesn't make it, then the athletes are going to be in hotels.
Sure.
On Main Street.
Yeah, and Orta is, we're going to continue to do normal business.
Sure.
We're not shutting down the venues just to host so is it premature to even,
Well, this is just discussion,
Well, basically what they're saying is, and this is the last security meeting as well, along with like the Homeland Security stuff, assessments we've been talking about, is that they need to know if it's going to be or not in order to do the proper assessments.
yeah, we're not going to know.
Well,
we will until
the deputy director from, one of the deputy directors
We're
from
in here
DOT
before.
said they would need to know ahead of time to get the permit to shut down the state for that time, but they could expedite it if the village were to make the request or decision to go that route.
Has he even put a shovel in the ground yet? Has he? No, he hasn't even put a shovel in.
He doesn't even start.
now.
His last hurdle was probably the cost of lumber.
Yes. Which has
Or
skyrocketed.
there's also been talk, so they pushed off the summer World University Games, so we don't know what's gonna happen if they're gonna bump the winter ones out another year. That possibility exists too. And I don't know if we'll know that for a while. I'm sure that's not what Ashley wants, but it may be out of our control.
Depends on if she likes it here or not.
Yeah.
We knew there was a lot of considerations, but that's why we wanted to bring it up early because, the earlier the better for planning for everything.
How far out do they want to know? Or how far out should we let them
They're
know?
gonna wanna know this year.
Here, okay.
Yeah,
So are they talking complete closure?
Yes.
yeah, so.
From where to where?
They have like movable barricades, so you don't have to mess with Jersey barriers. So we could open up at night for deliveries, pre-designated time, 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. plowing.
Some of the ones that have the Tappan Zee Bridge, they kind of,
No, the only thing I was, is if you're gonna choose to do that, the engineering that DOT is gonna want for the detour is gonna be substantial, just like we did.
yeah.
So they're gonna wanna see that up now, and that's gonna take a little while,
But they're
probably
involved.
train Manning or something.
And that the deputy commissioner said, we need this ahead of time so they can do that.
Yeah,
They said they'd expedited, but they need it.
On our Zoom calls, the deputy commissioner of the DOT is on.
be in New York State.
Are they proposing the same type of security in Potsdam for the hockey
Yes.
teams? So they'll,
It'll be Plattsburgh, it's all over the north.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to be shutting down any main streets or anything like that. I think it's here because it's the main hub.
But it wouldn't hurt to, if you agree to that, to get something else of those editors, because they aren't the speediest people on the planet.
Basically, everybody's waiting on everybody because once that gets done, then they can start their security assessments based on the closure, et cetera, et cetera.
I get the impression that they're trying to wait to see how far we get with our Main Street project to start with. And to see where we'll be in housing and, don't you, there's like so many dominoes in the row, we don't know what they're gonna fall.
I can almost guarantee that we'll be finished by 2022, yeah, but
Or at least with 90% of it.
90%. So,
Okay. Let's see. One other thing that's not on here, just got an email, probably you were co-copied on that, from George Lavelle or one of his people about lacrosse and wanting to know a certain distance out so that people could know. And when we were in the events meeting, we talked about setting a date when we let the Ironman and the lacrosse know. Anything more you've heard on that or any more?
I don't know what restrictions have been lifted, you know, I think we're going by the restrictions at that time, which would be the 15th of May. And then whatever those restrictions are will be in play for Ironman and lacrosse is what I think that we discussed.
I'll make sure you get that email.
I don't blame them, they need to know further out, you know, it's my opinion that it needs to be scaled back, so.
Yeah, and the Ironman email that I got, I think I co-copied you on that. The guy just said, we need to know because they won't let us cancel our motels a certain distance out. That's another consideration, so. Well, you and I were talking, what, May 1st, middle of May,
I thought we said May 15th.
May 15th, yeah. And our next,
May 1st is Saturday, so
and we have an event council meeting, when, can you remember?
it's coming up, it's right before May 15th. I think.
Yeah, so maybe we can get all that put together.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. I had one of our non-union employees ask about Flexi, and he more or less, we only have what, 5, I think. And person wanted to be able to, at night, if he was working on something and doing really well, to stay an extra hour and then not come in the next day. All the union contracts allow that, correct?
Yeah, all the union contracts allow for comp time up to a certain amount.
And so I guess it's a matter of, do we want to put that in the schedule for the non-union 4 employees we have so they can do the same?
Doesn't that kind of open up the can of worms that we had with Peggy once upon a time, and Paul? Or we wanted some, I know this may not necessarily be, we wanted someone in the office. I think that was the primary concern, of visible presence in the.
No, because they've already got comp time.
I know, but I'm saying this was a matter of debate or discussion for like the length of Peggy's.
Yeah, no, this wouldn't be that. This would be.
Oh, I understand.
So
I know,
with
I
regard
understand.
to Peggy, Peggy wasn't a non-union employee per se. I mean, she wasn't in a union, but she was a salaried employee.
Mhm.
So salary, if you look at New York State labor law, salary states if you show up to work even one day, technically speaking, you're supposed to get paid for the whole week.
Mhm.
Salary is determined by how many hours your employer states you have to work. So as long as you fit within those parameters, I work at home every night. I probably pull 60 hours a week, but I
Sure.
get paid for 40.
Oh, I know the feeling.
So, but same thing being said, you could work 40 hours in 4 days, and as long as your employer doesn't have an issue with it,
And this is
this
where.
wouldn't apply. This would apply to Megan, the new account clerk, Patrick, and Victoria.
I guess.
This is something we have at Orta.
Yeah.
It's,
Just for
who's gonna
expedite,
manage it though?
just to expedite it, I know what comp time is, so you don't have to explain it.
Mhm.
I'm saying the heart of the discussion is whoever the employee is there a need for them to be at this particular spot? Because that was the onus with a lot of friction between Peggy and it was with Paul. In the sense, it's like, hey, can we have a treasurer that's here 5 days a week? A presence in the office? Is this same, are these non-union employees? If we open up the floodgates, then all of a sudden they're coming and going. Is that That's the one thing I want to be, like devil's advocate to say, this is what the concern was prior. Is this going to open up the floodgates of people coming and going? And how do we manage that?
So I think in terms of Patrick, it would be an overtime basis. So instead of collecting overtime check, he would comp it. So if he had to take a day off, or if he had a doctor's appointment in the morning, instead of having to use sick time, he could use that comp time because he stayed at work late and extra hours. The girls in the office in Victoria, the odds of them getting a whole lot of comp time is minimal because they don't work a whole lot of extra hours. They have a set schedule, 9 to 5, or 8 to 5, there's not a whole lot that they have to do outside their normal working hours. But if there's a project they're working on, or if there's a project Patrick's working on for any department, if he wanted to continue to work on it and take it home for an hour or two a night, instead of taking it in overtime, he would rather just comp the time.
So who's managing it?
It's the payroll.
No, his supervisor, who's going to say, okay, you worked 9 to 2.
He's punched in.
Yeah.
Oh, he punches
Yeah,
in.
so
Yeah,
he's
we have
punched in,
GPS
so
punch
that will be monitored through the punch in.
Mhm.
I know with this, I thought we talked before, way back, that we were gonna look at this for those people that weren't department heads, that weren't salaried, that they wouldn't be treated differently than the non-union employees.
I think
So you just have to have a number on that, that it's not higher than,
Right,
Like,
like
all of
a union employee,
all of our employees have,
you can't
a number.
exceed 80 hours.
yes. Whether you want to go that high with them, you could say 40 or whatever,
Right.
but
Isn't it covered under the village policy manual?
It's actually not written
It was
into the
they
handbook.
took it out.
It was supposed to be, but
Yeah.
it got dropped. I mean, and what you were just saying, I was going to mention is that, you know what, the last 8, 10 years, we've worked really hard so that all our employees get treated the same.
There's a real challenge, like for Patrick, because what is it, 1 week of vacation after a year?
Right.
And even with Megan and everyone else, you go a whole year without a day off, basically.
Mhm. I mean, after 6 months, you do get vacation time, or not vacation, but sick time. And August 1st, for non-union employees, you get your 2 floating holidays. But if you start work in September, the first thing you're gonna get is your sick time. But other than that, you have no other time off until the following August. And then you get your vacation time thereafter. So if somebody has a 45-minute doctor's appointment, we work with them, but they're gonna take it at no pay for the vast majority of it for the first 6 months at least, which makes it hard on a new employee. Yes, the benefits of the village are great and the retirement is great, but that first year is hard for a new employee.
To really make you earn it. And I feel like those sort of benefits should be available from the minute you're hired. And then and you have it within that first, or that fiscal year, and then whatever you roll over or not.
So with the
I think you have to get through your probation first, and then
But about
don't
6
like
months.
once you have good standing, I think we do 6 months, and then, because we have had employees in the past that have.
So the CSEA, the bargaining unit, do you start accruing at 6 months?
No, you start accruing at day 1 for your.
But
sick
you
time.
can't use them until
Correct.
6 months.
Correct. So you have a sick bank of time that you
Right.
can utilize.
And vacation, correct?
No.
No, just sick
Well, you
time?
can accrue the comp right out of the
We
gate.
wanted to do the whole vacation thing, but the unions didn't like it. And I don't think at first, Paul had brought it up when he was here, it was not explained correctly to anybody. So I know there was an uproar in my household when it first got brought up. He's like, well, they're gonna take away all of our vacation. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. Still get the same amount of vacation, it's just you get it through the course of the year. So if you need to take time earlier, you can utilize time earlier. And
Does your sick time keep accruing over the course
Yes.
of
yes,
your employment?
Yes.
And does your vacation time continue to accrue, or do you have to use it by the end of
There's
your
a threshold.
hire date?
so,
Carry over 2
yeah,
weeks.
you carry over 2 weeks and then it's you use it over.
You can cash
Up to 80 hours.
It's a little complicated. It all depends on the
Cash
highway
80, roll
legislature
80,
different than
and then
electric.
lose the rest as Brad is aware. And Kimball, 'cause they don't,
it. Yes.
they don't get enough vacation.
No, we haven't been able to take it with COVID. That problem.
And we did bump this past year so you could cash out more than just your 80 hours because of COVID. Because for supervisors, I mean, they couldn't go anywhere, they couldn't do anything. And
And they're super critical to the operation.
Yeah, they had to be here, so we did let them cash out additional.
So other state agencies, you can cash out 225 hours.
A year?
Yeah, well, you can only accrue up to 300 hours over the course of your employment, and then when you leave, you can cash out 225 hours.
Now, see, upon departure, you can cash out everything,
You can catch
Everything?
everything, yeah. But you required less sick leave.
not your sick.
Right.
Sick leave goes,
Not sick.
Or your health
Not
insurance.
sick, not personal, that stuff you can't.
No,
whatever
personal.
you couldn't
But
previously.
you can, your vacation.
Do you have bereavement leave?
Mhm.
Is that separate, or do you take that from your sick time?
Separate,
It's totally separate. It's not sick time, it's not vacation, it's
separate.
3 days,
Yeah.
3 to 5.
Yeah, the supervisor.
Depending upon-
For yours.
And that's only for us.
Yeah, it's only gonna be electric.
But like Kimball said, I mean, everything works fine the way it is with but the union employees, from the day they start, whether they get their vacation time or not, whether it be highway worker, water worker, electric worker, they can accrue comp.
Mhm.
So.
Same with police.
Same with the police. So even though you don't get your vacation for a year, all those union employees, they have a way to get some time so they can take it off in the first year. The non-union are the only ones that can.
Yeah.
Usually the senior employees make sure they get a couple call outs. or
Yes.
whatever.
That's the thing.
No, I mean,
they do.
so they have a couple days to do, if they need it.
So we're talking about 5 employees, basically?
Yeah, 5 or 6.
And Patrick, he doesn't necessarily have to do the job from home. He would do it from work. I mean, any extra time. I mean,
Well, either way,
Yeah.
he signs in remotely
Yeah.
anyways. We have GPS login for everybody if they want access to it. Or they can punch in at a time clock. Their time clock's out in the shop, so he just logs in from the office. But when Victoria was working from home, she logged in from home. When Patrick was working from home during COVID, he logged in from home. They still log out for lunch the way they're supposed to, log back in, but it shows in GPS and we can check the coordinates of where they are when they punch in, if we need to. Not that we do, but better safe than
We'll be
sorry.
fitting you with your bracelet.
You're anybody,
Gets injected into your neck.
you'll call the vaccination.
So I understand what Jason's saying is that if somebody needs to be at work from 9 to 5 because you need him at 4:30, I mean, which.
Which
we
circles
worked
back to
at-
saying management of it.
Right, who manages it?
Which I'm
Who's
completely.
their supervisor? Who's Patrick's
Whatever
supervisor?
department head is. So
Art,
this-
no.
Oh, I mean,
Art is the supervisor because he works, well, he's supposed to.
So it's Patrick Wells?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, so he's a computer.
yes.
And I get it, you're working on things and some days things click and some they don't.
Right.
You just hate to stop when you're on a good roll, and I could see him sitting there for 2 or 3 hours some night and getting a lot of work done.
Mhm.
Just, we don't have to make a decision right away, but he did ask and just thought I'd bring it up.
And I think when we dismissed a previous employee, this conversation came up with our labor attorney about adding it to our policy because it was an issue that had been created by former treasurer for a particular employee and it wasn't in the union contract at the time, or it wasn't in our policies and procedures at the time and it was being abused.
Oh, I
And,
remember.
you know, it was brought up in case we wanted to add it going forward. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea to kind of make everybody uniform.
Okay, like I said, I more or less just wanted to bring it up today so we were aware of it, we could think about it. Okay, and I was really hoping that the administrative staff would be here, but they're the two that aren't here. But you, for Jason and Jackie, do you want to just mention the folding machine you're talking about?
Oh, sure. So anybody who comes here on billing day sees the machines that get used and then sees the girls test them throughout the course of the day because they break.
I thought that was creepy.
They'd like to at the end of the day, trust me. We have, I've gotten quotes from National Business Equipment on a new printer. Our new accounting software pushes out our bills a lot faster than our old ones, so they need a bigger printer in order to keep up with it. The machine next to our printer is a folding and stuffing machine. Folds everything up, stuffs it in the envelope, spits it out. It's older than dirt. I think we bought it used. And it breaks on a regular basis. They have to call the tech to come fix it. Sharon is the only one it likes. And it doesn't even like her that much, but she talks to it as she feeds the envelopes through. She's got a good system with it. But the last time the tech was here, he said, there's not much more I can do with it. You're gonna have to look to replace it. So I looked at purchasing one and they're not cheap. And I also looked at leasing one. It's about 130 bucks a month to lease it. But in this case scenario, we lease it for 3 years. After 3 years, we get a brand new machine. We don't run into the same situation that we're in right now.
And it has maintenance built into the.
Yes. We send out anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 pieces of mail a month for billings. If it's water sewer month, maybe even more. And the town has actually shown interest in purchasing our old one just for their tax billing. The girls, I think, deserve it because they, as I said.
Sure, just if they're leaving,
They
right?
ginger it and they, they really push that machine to its limits and they spend the entire day billing.
Isn't that part of the problem too? Sharon knows how to talk to that machine.
Yes,
Does
and
she-
Sharon's retiring at the end of the week, so. Kathy yells at it and Megan just gets super frustrated, so.
Within the lease program, does it give you a certain number? Well, it's only a folding thing, so
Yeah.
like, there's no paper or anything
Nope.
else.
No.
And the beauty of that is in 3 years, if they can't keep up because things have expanded, you can just get a different machine.
Mhm.
And we don't have to pay for maintenance costs, which is probably what helps
Right.
out too.
Yeah, right now, I mean, we probably have the tech here once, if not twice a month to service that machine.
The old electric bills they weren't in envelopes, right?
No, they're little postcards. And we have looked at sending the bills out to have them printed, stuffed and sent. The only issue that I've run into, I looked at 2 different companies. One is actually our postage company can do it, Pitney Bowes. We have so many different ranges of bills. So some are statement bills, some are in-house bills, some are out-of-country bills. Some of them collate differently. So it would be, it would be their problem, but it's, the 2 quotes that I had gotten back weren't exactly cost effective for the amount of work that those ladies push through in a day.
How many bills get paid online?
I think we're up to 225 now.
And there's a fee to pay your bill online.
Yes.
Any way we
It's
can get rid
the-
of that fee?
Well, it's the credit card processing fee. So the credit card company charges us one, and then Encode charges the other. We can eat the fee. It would just be an additional expense to us. We also have the option they can pay via ACH, which is free. And then we started the push notifications, which gives you the option. If they set an account up online with a bank account number versus a debit card number, it doesn't charge them a fee.
Do they know that?
It says it on the site, whether or not they read it.
They do not read it.
And we do put notes on the bottom of the bills. On a semi-regular, the notes change every month, but we have tried to push more and more people to go electronically. And a lot of people, since we started the new service, now we have the option of emailing bills. A lot more people have signed up for it. We do put that on the bottom of the bills, probably once a quarter. Because we're limited to how many lines we can write.
Okay. Maybe we can get Mark and Peter to follow up with you on that, but at least everyone's aware of what's going on there.
That makes sense.
And do you two want to talk about the electric vehicle request? Just from the standpoint, that the rest of the board knows what's going on.
In the budget this year, I had money for a new Tahoe. I know that our KWH sales are down.
All across the board,
So
everything's
I
down,
thought a
except for
good-
sales tax. And
It kind of would be twofold, is it would preserve the 36,000 that was in there for the Tahoe. And it would put a green face on us if we bought an EV originally off municipal alternative vehicle program, which is 0% interest for 36 months. Then we kind of got to looking at Ted's daily run and said it's kind of foolish driving 1 ton around on this, and we figure he's 27 gallons a week. This now is up towards 100, so that's about $400 a month that could be converted into electric consumption rather than gas. And it'd be a good way to tease ourselves into the electrification that's coming, whether we want it or not.
And we can write off the electric that we use to charge would be part of the loss.
Yes.
Yep.
So we wouldn't actually even be paying for the electric, so we're just saving on the gas.
And we passed the payment, the 0% financing for the EV. The payment would get passed through the PPAC, so the village really isn't paying anything for it. The ratepayer is paying for it. Doesn't get added to our inventory as part of our plant, but considering how long vehicles last, doesn't necessarily make a huge difference.
And all the communities use that program. I mean, Tupper, I think their last 3 buckets, I know 2 of their buckets they passed through there. They just put a little trinket on it, mitigation for an extra 20, and they can pass it through. And they're gonna be putting a bucket through any time now for 200,000, so,
Okay, and that's something you'd like to put on the schedule for Monday, right?
yes.
Okay.
We just think it makes sense to buy both of them at one time.
And you're looking at what, $2,000 added to the PPA factor? Like, it's really not gonna be
Provided
much.
money.
Yeah.
And plus, when you order it, there's a 2 8-week lead time. Or-
Yes,
So it's like
if we're lucky.
2 months, so.
Any questions on that, Jack? Here, okay.
And then my Tahoe would become Mark Pratt's. Mark's is just about a Fred Flintstone mobile. It's got a good floor mat in it, so he doesn't see the road.
It's a true story. His brakes go, he just puts.
You don't stop your feet.
Hopefully the new one shows up before the inspection expires, but it's the right color at least right now. Yes.
Were we discussing the digger as well?
If you want, or that, I figured that was just going.
Well, I did want to bring up one thing. I know Tracy mentioned it to you. I talked to Billy about the fire department, but I had talked to our auditors, and as far as Kimball's bucket truck is concerned, now as far as how much it costs overall right now, that's a new point on all of this. But right now we're looking to buy a bucket truck, a new fire truck, or yes, digger truck, new fire truck and a dump truck. And originally we were gonna push the dump truck off just a bit because of the way sales were this year. However, the option that Bill had given me for the digger truck was to put a down payment on it out of our depreciation reserve and then bond for the rest because interest rates are so low.
They won't be like that.
No, they won't. So the thought process is we use the fire department reserve that we were gonna buy that truck out of completely for the down payment, put the rest into the bond and do the same thing with the dump truck. Your budgeted item for this year would just be the down payment. And then we would bond for the rest of it. Just do a 5-year bond. The trucks should last more than 5 years. And that way we keep more of our capital liquid and we can spread across the bond resolution fees, which are minimal as long as we stay under $1 million. So factoring in what we're gonna put for down payment and then what the vehicles themselves are gonna cost should put us right under the $1 million mark. And I think overall it would help us cash flow wise.
Are we able to, when the reserve fund, is that in the electric department? And we're able to commingle that, like you're saying? Am I missing something?
So his reserve would be utilized for a down payment on his truck.
Okay,
We're gonna take out a big bond for the 3 different, and when I go to make the payment, it will be broken out by the 3 different areas that have to pay for it based upon how much we used for each one of those. So
Okay.
40% here, 30% here,
I see what you're
60%,
saying.
whatever. And I know that doesn't add to 100, so.
Yep, no, I
We're
think
just putting the bond cost 3 ways.
Yes.
The bond cost would be 3 ways, but the down payment, what Art's asking is, his fund would pay his down payment, the fire fund would pay his.
Okay.
My budgeted money would pay mine.
Mhm.
Okay, that's.
And you
that's
actually
beautiful.
have money in reserves
Yes.
if they wanted to use it for that particular thing. There is a water sewer reserve,
Okay,
as well as a streets and road reserve, depending upon where you wanted to pull it out of. But that's what those reserves are for, is
Okay.
for items of that nature. And then this way, we're not gonna hit our overall capital as much as we would if we were just to pay for them. Not knowing again, what's gonna happen this summer or how COVID's gonna continue to affect things, so.
okay,
Now, like the digger truck, the intent is to keep it for 25 years. The only reason I waited to buy it was the gap between the two wasn't even.
Mhm.
So the newer truck is 13 years old now. The 25, I think, is a better period to go to, not the 31 that we're at now. But I was trying to even out the spacing between them. So I-
because you always need two.
Well, Paul wanted to replace it 5 years ago, and I was like, no, I'd rather even out the space between them. So
And I take Joey's need two, correct?
it's damn nice to have two. I know Messina has two, and when one of theirs goes down, they're right, said, we need a digger, we send it, so yeah, whatever you need, you know, we're kind of lucky, North Line would probably hook
We
us
have
up.
their digger a lot.
Yeah,
Mhm. Well, and I think with the amount of projects and the fact that he runs 2 full crews versus, one crew and then a little bit off here, a little bit off there, like Crow used to do. He runs 2 full crews, so if they have to do 2 poles in one day, or Brad needs a truck and they have another crew doing something, they have 2 functional trucks.
I mean, the biggest advantage is broken poles, because replacing a pole in the dark it takes twice as long as in daylight. And what we typically do is we just put the digger on the pole, hold the broken pole, and wait till daylight and replace it. And I'll try to find the picture of, you remember the one on the plant road? We had this New York City, Angelo Laura was up to test the new NIPA metering. First thing he sees driving down the plant road is just the top 10 feet of a pole with a digger truck holding it. Because we had safety training that day, so it just sat there until the next day, and then we replaced it, so.
Okay, good.
Because a broken pole is usually, you think they're simple, but it can smoke a day in a hurry. 8 hours can be just on a broken pole, so in a storm, you have a broken pole, you hold it off, you do all the small jobs and come back to it. So.
And you
And then
mentioned,
hopefully the second meeting in May, we'd have request the purchase of it. Does that make sense, Mindy?
Mhm.
We just got a few last kinks we're working out at this point.
and you mentioned 221, our heavy
So
rescue.
ours is 2281. It's a 2005. It's our heavy rescue truck. And that's the one that's looking to be replaced. We had a discussion about Justin budgeted at 600,000 for it. It's going to be under 600,000, but probably closer to 550, 560.
Are we gonna get a traded value on that other truck?
Yeah, that's with the trade-in.
Oh,
So
okay.
the 3 bids, tomorrow KME's coming up, but roughly it's about, for an E1, it's 550, for KME, it's 570. And the Rosenbauer, which isn't a 4-wheel drive, is 520. Need a 4-wheel drive, we think. So he's overestimated on his budget by probably 50. We're
I'm
going
not,
to try to cut some costs in other ways. Some of the bracketing inside the truck itself, we'll try to do some of that in-house.
Well,
So,
what about the mini bumper? I know Justin wants a mini bumper.
yeah, we've been talking about that. That's not, we haven't budgeted for that right now in this budget year.
especially if a garage gets built.
Well, not only that, but there are an awful lot of houses, the roads are so narrow, you can't get a full-size truck up my sister's house. And roads are expensive to build, so they don't really make them any wider than they have to, or driveways rather, driveways are expensive to build. So,
That's been on the slate. And then the other thing too is another boat for the lake.
Mhm.
And that's about 220.
And
I think.
Which didn't the shore owners want 'em?
Should kick in for that.
Yeah.
that's what they haven't offered. That's what I've seen so far.
And this is one of those situations where we'd have to talk to the town as well.
70-30 split.
See if they're on board with that.
And also
They're
the
always
heavy,
under a budget crunch for some reason.
heavy rescue, that's like the most used vehicle, right?
So that has,
it's called
I
out.
mean, we have trials of life on the pumpers, but that's the first run truck to an accident, car accident, you know, any type of serious accident, collapse, you know. It goes to almost everything.
So this is the important one.
Well, the pumper is probably the most important. That's the second, you know, that's probably, for a car accident, that would be your first run truck.
Okay.
I have one more electric department.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, transformers.
yes.
Oh.
I learned this from
Oh,
Craig.
sorry.
We better finish up. No, we're hoping that, I've got a transformer bid together. We're still learning the transformer bidding. Will be our third one. Used to be, we just called up and got them, but. The problem was that the first bid, they were 8 weeks lead time. This bid, they went to 26 weeks. So we're kind of dialing in our stock level. So my forecast is 120,000. I've got the list of them if anyone really wants to be bored, but. So that's what I talked to Mindy and I said, I forecast 120, but who knows with the way. What I did was I took the last bid, if they were on the last bid, I added 30%. That's how I came up with it. If we bid them before, if we hadn't, I just put them, went with it.
Is this the next budget year? We're looking to,
I don't,
By the time the bill.
Oh, yeah.
hits.
well, I think by the time we've got one batch from our December 2000 bid that probably isn't gonna show up till July. So,
Yeah, so that will probably hit in the next budgetary year.
We've done well with our bidding, haven't we? It seems like the prices are not close.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, it's probably gonna get awarded to Armco.
They've won the last.
I think that a couple pole mounts went to Eaton. Other than that, it's been Armco across the board.
I think because of the amount they produce. So they can put them out cheaper.
That's probably something else we should put on the agenda for Monday, right?
Craig always wanted to bid on the agenda, so
But we have to approve going out for bid or not, or
it's
just,
up to you. I
I
mean,
did we in the past.
you did the last two,
Yeah. Okay. So why don't you put that on the agenda then for Monday?
and I've just got there were a few things in the bid that I wanted to change. And other than that, it should be ready to go. Now, Anita said she had conflicts in 2 days. We can open the bid any day. Is she
Oh,
still
no,
here?
yeah, she's here. It's a virtual conference. She's just gonna be at the NICOM conference. She'll be in the building. That's what she said. It didn't matter what day we
Okay,
did
are
it.
you here all those days?
Yeah. Yeah, any of those days work.
Okay,
Okay.
we just gotta pick a time too, though.
I think we normally do like 1 o'clock.
Because that's the other problem is, it's 26 weeks, but then the bidding process is another 4 on top of that.
Okay, great. Anything else?
Hopefully there'll be some wires coming down on Maryland Drive here in a couple weeks. And
we're looking at November,
I
December.
broke it to Teresa. I have to dig across her flower beds. She's not.
You give her notice?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily circle back, but I know we discussed flex time. Did you want to go over Patrick's status or do you want to hold off?
Let's wait till we have more of us here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was
Patrick was, if you remember, he was here for 3 years. He told
Yes.
us he was going to go on to law school.
Okay.
He kind of intimated to me that he might be interested in sticking around longer.
Really?
Yeah. So just to mention, that's kind of a possibility. And
Find something for him.
Oh, there's plenty for him. Everybody and their brother is trying to get at it right now.
I mean, the world is not going away from IT people, so.
But are we thinking something, creating a position? with
Well, we did
responsibilities?
create a position
Oh, like,
originally, which
with
was
increased
technical coordinator,
responsibility.
yes. So instead of just being responsible for interdepartmental type items, like he's been working with destination management, he's been working with,
Delightful.
yeah.
Lane code review.
Well,
he's been
yeah.
working- yeah.
So essentially, either we could bill him out if we need to, depending upon, who we're utilizing or who wants to utilize them, or if it's a village project, the Peaks project coming in, even FISU, if we needed to do something, mapping wise for that to see where people were staying or I have no idea. But it may be something additional. There's always something going on, it seems, within the village that he could be utilized for, so.
Okay, like I say, we'll discuss him more down the road. Item 8 on your Essex County Treasurer or Transportation, I put that on here. I didn't know, Peter said he was going to talk and have the Essex County Coordinator come, but I don't know when. He hasn't said anything, so obviously it's not yet, but hopefully they'll keep working to get the app so that we can track the trolley.
Peter obviously wasn't as nice as he said he was.
And is everyone aware of the middle high school's request for Mids Park? Has that gone out to anybody yet? Yeah, okay. I don't see where there's a problem with that. It's as long as they follow the individual.
Has to follow the COVID rules, so I don't see a problem.
And that's probably something we can also put on the agenda for Monday.
Is it early June?
June 6th.
And then I reached out to MJ Lawrence at Roots and just said, give some thought to anything you can think that we might want on Main Street the next 20 years before we make it brand new, so we have to tear it up. And 2 things she came up with was a water bottle filling station and electric bike charging station on Main Street. And I talked to Brad, and he said there used to be water fountains on Main Street. Is that something we want to consider? And if we're going to do it, we better run the electric and the plumbing to it while the sidewalks are torn up. And
Well, now they have the actual, I know at least in the elementary school and I think in the high school, you put a water bottle underneath it and it fills it for you. They're really nice
They're amazing.
and very sanitary.
Yes.
And some of the ones we've looked at had the dog bowl filler at the bottom.
Mhm.
But just the location, I'm all for it, just where are we going to locate it?
Just, well, like I said, better give it some thought. We've got time.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
And then the bike charging stations, I guess it would just be a matter of where would you be able to put a bike on Main Street, but
I've only seen one person driving around. They weren't driving very safely. Jeez, but I don't
being
know.
that individual.
Yeah, like,
I don't think that's a true e-bike.
I'm going the opposite way of traffic. I'm like, no, these things aren't adding up.
He the guy that lives in Cascade Acres?
You know, I was driving by.
No, he drives a motorcycle.
Oh,
Well, this guy looks like he's got a little hamster wheel on a little scooter. I mean, it's really just a tiny little thing. I don't think he gets up over 10 or 15. And I don't know about the times I've driven an e-bike, they hold a charge for quite a distance. I guess depending on how far in you came to go to work and parked on Main Street.
is it something that we can like flash on to the EV chargers that we have in the parking lots?
I have no idea. The best I can do is go see Brian Delaney. Actually, I'm kind of interested in ones that's out right by the road. One flew up the hill.
Have you ever ridden one?
No,
They're impressive. They really are.
Yeah, they're also $1,500.
Mhm.
More.
Well, you don't have to.
Tommy's is like $5,000.
You can really, well, but you can get into some that'll do 35 miles
Yeah,
an hour.
he can drive all day on this.
Yeah,
Without charging.
some impressive bikes.
So this is the first conversation I've had with anyone that's like, talks about electric bikes, because I was just like, is there a need for that? And like, I was like, maybe I'll get one, but I don't know if, that's the one person I've seen with electric bike.
For your commute to the school?
Yeah, I should be walking, but I'm like, I have stuff afterwards. But I'm just like,
2 years
this would be
ago,
awesome if I could just.
2 years ago when Rick had his marathon, I usually do the sweep rider
Yeah, yeah.
bike. And I come off my incident at UVM and I couldn't have ridden a bike, kept up anything. And I went down and got one from Brian. You get on it within 30 seconds, you understand it. If you're not pedaling, it doesn't give you power. So you're not also going to rock it into trouble. And I got on it and I rode up here, went down Cummings Road, came over, crossed, came up Mill Hill, and I was pushing the car in front of me. And when the car in front of me left, you know, the guy behind me figured out the guy's on a bike. Well, I rocketed it out. They really are impressive. I was, you know, able to zip back and forth, up and down. Yes, with it. If you have a need, they're really good. And I do know a couple that the husband and wife can ride together now because you can use as much power as you want. And it's almost like a handicap in golf. Anyone can go with anybody.
I guess it's just a matter of locating it.
But I would imagine if any of the light poles will have power and it would supply for. But just a thought, you know, if we do I guess we have areas we're thinking about bike racks on Main Street, just a chance to put a quack or a, what am I trying to say? Conduit in the ground so that in the
I think
future.
that Brad probably knows is better, but I think next, adjacent to every light pole, there's a junk. So,
But if we think there's anywhere we might want bike racks in the
Well, there was a
future.
bike rack in the front of the main parking lot, remember, in the circle on the Rotary, bike rack there. It's been taken down now, but that was a big area that's all bricked up. That's the area that bikes were being locked up at one time. Like you said, I don't know how many people are actually riding bikes.
I guess even just putting the conduit in for now. Okay, like I say, those are kind of two easy things.
So I thought we were gonna be upstairs, because a lot of it is just being visual, so it doesn't really, I sent an email out to everyone if you really, really wanted to, and you dove into. It's, let's just say from a board perspective, if like you really want to be interested, reach out, and like, we're happy to have you on, but like, it really is just DEC's created this climate smart communities where you can, and you saw the thing where we're at 65 and 120 is bronze, and 65 without really doing much, just collecting and organizing what we already have, and what we're already doing would put us up close to like 80 or 90. So like, anyone wants, I can have like a sit down conversation with them and kind of go through it. It's the town of North Elba's, I just emailed them a list. It's the same list, and they just added someone else from the El Sabo Watershed Association, and Colin Hayes responded, and he seems interested. So it's just a certification program that moves us in the direction of renewable energy, or at least clean energy, or just combating climate change. So a lot of it is, there isn't really an ask of the board. It's more of just kind of like an ask of the mayor and support of the board. What was an obstacle was there's an individual who needs to have access to the DEC portal. The mayor wanted Anita to do it, but in order for Anita to do it, amongst all the other things she needed to do, it would be me having to sit down and say, okay, when we're ready, you need to go into the portal here, put this information here. So that was a kind of an impediment. So one is having the mayor authorizing someone who has access to the portal on behalf of the village. And then the same is going to be, the same person will have that same access to the town, and the town seems very much more open to just having someone with. The other one is a website, which goes into the website integration. The task force can create a very simplistic website for which the village and the town can both link to. I need authorization for that. And any sort of information. I know Brad and Kimball were the primary people because it's greenhouse gas emissions and collecting. It's just authorization to kind of release some information, like number of vehicles, how many gallons, gas, so on and so forth. And I think that was another sort of impediment because it seemed to kind of fade off. Not that you weren't open to the information, it was just like who's asking about it, and then I relay it, but then there's tons of other projects that need to be taken care of. So like collecting the data. But Brad and Mindy, especially, and people, like whenever I asked, they were able to produce it. I just need the authorization for that, the outflow of information, or at least I can relay it to say, hey, Brad, can I get, what is the number of this? And then maybe he can pass it on to somebody and say, there we have X number of trucks, we drive X number of miles, so on and so forth. So that's the only ask, it's the authorization from
I didn't
you.
get a chance to read your stuff today. I was an appointment in Albany, but I'll take a look at that.
And then Emily and Derek are spearheading the town. They're already, they're going, and I have that list. There's going to be 2 more people for the task force. So just, if we could put the task force on the agenda for Monday. We already have a task force, so it's just an update. So there's nothing new about it. So I just want to make sure, and I'll have a more official list because I have to get the resolution and the list for the town. So Emily and Derek can pass it. So
Okay.
Again, it's just a program. It doesn't cost us anything. For instance, the cost for the chargers that Kimball put in, and is going to give us more points for certification, but we didn't have to pay for it. It was a program through, was it NIPA?
Nicer.
NYSERDA. And then there's, just received another email where the state has an initiative, a green initiative that we can draw from, and we're exploring other items that we could possibly get. So the whole goal is become certified and spend little to no money. That's really what we're kind of all about.
Okay. That's all I had. Anybody else have anything? Go Jackie.
Did you want to report on the Arts Alliance Committee or do you want to
Yes,
wait?
yeah, no, unless you want to get out in the sunshine. I'm good.
I don't want to. So they put together a master plan and it's good, but of course, the committee is looking for money, contributions from the town, the village, to start projects. Some projects would be looking for grants, but of course, they don't have a grant writer. So, honestly, Lori should probably make a presentation, but it is worth looking at. They have an inventory of all the art that is around the community, that's on private property, that's on public property. I mean, we've got, challenges with liabilities. So it's definitely worth having Lori come in and make a presentation.
Okay.
So if you want to put it on the agenda for next week or whenever.
What's the ultimate goal of the committee?
Obviously, it's part of the comprehensive plan,
To
so,
incorporate more artwork throughout.
or to have some sense of continuity. And, all of a sudden, we had the runner up on Crown Plaza Hill, and then we've got this piece of art. A lot of it's left over from the 1980 games. But, they also want private developers to incorporate art just to make us look pretty, which is not a bad thing.
A lot of major cities have little art walks or others.
Yeah, exactly.
Art
So
that is specific to their.
Do you know how much they're thinking about asking? for?
No, they
Okay.
could,
And that's also something I would think that they could apply to the LEAF fund for.
yes, but only with specific projects and not for, like under a startup fund. So.
You
it's-
wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to bring up was Ed Finnerty sent me a letter. And it was originally written in 2019 and it was to then Mayor Randall. And it was his suggestion to rename Cummings Road the Denny Allen Drive in honor of Denny. He really didn't get a response. So he was kind of shocked. But I asked Bill to do a little bit of research on what it would take. And I don't know if I should recuse myself at this point because I worked for the man for 17 years. So,
We're not voting, keep talking.
okay.
What is the historical
Yeah, what is-
significance of Cummings? Road?
Wait, I don't know. Ask Ned Reed, I guess. I have no idea. Ask Dick Cummings.
What's that?
I think there was something to do with a family that lived there, like a lot of them.
Really?
But there's no, yeah,
Well, is it Cummings or is it Cummins?
That's been a discussion as well
Mhm.
several times.
I mean, because the sign says Cummins?
Is it Wilmington or Wilmington?
I think the county said it was Cummins at one point, didn't they?
yeah, well, they changed. the
Because
law
of,
because
there's
of
another
close-
Cummings Road someplace.
In Essex County.
Essex County, so they came with the Cummings.
Just like
So
West Valley,
at this
West
point,
Valley.
Bill made a call to Essex County, not as easy as, twitching your nose and changing the name.
I
But we
like the 1950s Bewitched reference.
There's 6 residences that I don't know if they would necessarily have, you've got Wayne and Kim Moran, you've got Lossers, but they've got a rental apartment, then they've got the short-term rental that used to be Hanrahan's, then you got Bickford's, and then you got Miners, but
The Bickfords are off Cummings Road, they're down
But they
on
still-
School Street.
they still use Cummins as,
Like a million?
yes. And the biggest concern is the school uses Cummins,
15
whatever,
yeah.
as their mailing address.
Well,
So,
I'm all for renaming it if we're not really rubbing anyone who
Sounds
has
like the
any.
school would have to redo all their stationery.
They'll be all right.
It's all on computers, so.
Yeah, it's a word that I can just.
so, yes, I would like to see us move more for forward discussion.
Maybe what we ought to do is what you just said, or someone, let's get a hold of Bev Reed and see what the significance of Cummings Road is.
Mhm.
If not, I'm all for it too.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'll reach out to Beth.
Good, okay.
That's it, that's all
Now
I
if
got.
it was like Perkins, like, something like my own.
Or Stratz.
Yeah, okay, yeah, like, you're on your own, sister.
Did you want to say anything more on Main Street?
The, last Thursday, we had an issue where they had a line that was not known. It was
The
an
water
old
line.
Oh, I just
Did
learned
you know
that on
it
my
was
way
there?
to school.
Well, no, it was just an old line that nobody knew was there. We're gonna hit this up and down Main Street the whole way. We had to kill the water main from basically MBT Bank to the High Peaks. It was only about an hour and a half. They had everything fixed, back up, running, but High Peaks is saying later that night, around 7 o'clock that night, there were several leaks in several rooms. They said they're still dealing with it. It didn't, and this all happened around 11 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock, maybe 12:30, the water was back on. This happened later that night, and they've had plumbers there. They've reached out to me, they've reached out to Ricky, they've talked with Ivan. I don't know where they're headed with this, but they're saying it's going to be substantial cost for them to fix all the water breaks. Nobody else had any issues. Not the first time the water's been shut down. We all have ideas of what caused it, but I don't. but
They
I-
had plumbing on their part.
Yes, well, it's.
I heard the Palace
obviously-
Theater had an issue too. Palace Theater, when they said something about when they turned the water back on, like there was some
Air.
force or something that
Yeah.
burst.
Yeah, air in the lines, but that's anytime that you have water shut off in your house or anything, you realize there's air, you gotta bleed them off. And you think that with High Peaks having maintenance staff, they would have gone around and bled the air off. We even shut their valve at the road so the building wouldn't drain. So any water that was being drained in the building was had to be used by themselves. So when we turned it back on, we slowly charged their building. They must not have went room to room. Only thing that could have been is air that caused some of these issues. But just to forewarn everybody that there probably will be something. Haven't spoke with Janet. I don't know if it'll even be anything to do with us. Probably I'd be on the contractor, most likely. Because they're the ones that hit the line, even though it wasn't marked. It's not known, but this is gonna happen the whole way. So just
What can we do to mitigate similar situations, even though if they hit an unknown line? Is there like a procedurally that do different
same
communicate,
thing, we
like turn the faucets on, whatever? I don't know the ins and outs of.
that was told to everybody, and besides, they've dealt with this. This is at least since I've been here, 10th time that section's been shut down.
Hmm.
Never had an issue before.
Well, that building's what, close to 43 years
Yeah.
old, 78?
So, and there was an issue, and it seems like copper pipes is the problem, which is another odd thing, that it's a copper pipe that's leaking. Some of them are leaking right in the side of the pipe. It sounds to me like there's a corrosion issue on the pipe, or a copper pipe to just burst, because there's other buildings up there in this area that scary for me.
Flex tape.
That Flex Seal spray. But that's one thing that we're just gonna have to, like they said, everybody went door to door. They insisted everybody they could, they shut their valve. I talked to Randy, their head maintenance guy. He watched the whole thing happen. I said, Randy, the first thing you should have done, and he's done this in the past, is he should have killed his valve. Then he should have controlled the water being turned on in his building himself. But he went home and left. So I just know that there's going to be more to talk about this going forward. It could happen tomorrow, it might not happen the rest of the job, but it's a possibility. Other than that, everything else is going pretty well up there. Other than
Did you also hit was it a sanitary sewer line or a surface water line? Was there one, two that wasn't in the right spot or?
Yeah, well, right now, we're gonna have to relocate a section of sewer line coming down Saranac Avenue because it was supposed to go manhole to manhole, and it actually had a bunch of fittings in the middle of it, and they must have went around something, what caused this, so we have to relocate it further away from the drainage pipe. Because what happens with it is you have to maintain with the water, the drainage, the sewer, a distance. If it's old and they're next to each other, they're fine, but since we're relocating everything now and fixing everything, we have to push that line into a different location. So there's gonna be probably 300 feet of the line that has to be relocated. We're redesigning it now, we're gonna dig a hole in more road, get some more grade shots, but it's not a big issue. Well, I'll have a price on it once we have all the grades, what we actually have to do. It looks like it had 2 manholes, and it's 300 feet wide, just to get it away from everything else.
Any more conversation on regrading that expansion you were talking about?
Yes. That's,
I have a
Or the
meeting with
Swiss roll.
Ivan coming up.
Yeah, that's,
Talking over to Swiss Road.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna happen.
Okay.
I mean, if it's ever gonna happen, it's now or never.
Yeah, he actually sent the final plans to me today, so I can meet with these people tomorrow about that. Their engineer, just to show them what we're doing. We're actually changing the driveway entrance. We're gonna use that same traversable curb we use on the back of the lake, because we can drop the curb elevation and use that, so we can,
How much are you actually talking raising that road?
where we left off on the project, about 12 inches.
Just a foot?
Yeah, and then it's the highest area I think we're raising is about 16.
Okay.
But we're still looking at that with drainage and making sure everything can still drain. But normally it's an average from about a foot of elevation change, but it's going to be dramatically different even with that foot. Once you start looking at it in the field, you wouldn't think a foot is that much. But a foot at the curb line is drastic, because you're also going to be higher in the middle of the road because you crab. So.
And the advantages to all that would be, number one, the sidewalk wouldn't be like this.
It won't be level.
It'd be level.
It'd go from, like, I think it's 18% grade right there right now, and it goes down to like 4. And then if we use this curving that we're talking, it could be even less. So that's going to be dramatic on that side. And also that entrance to Swiss Road is going to be much more gradual. It's not going to be level and then up. It's going to be kind of feathered in.
So I should just expect a change order from Ivan.
You two are both familiar with what's going on there, yeah.
The thing with the change orders, that was one thing we had talked about, and do we want to carry this like we did all the other projects and do the change orders in the end?
Mhm.
Or do we want to do them as we go? Because there's not,
It doesn't matter to me as long as I know, and Ivan, like I said, Ivan and I are supposed to sit down where we're gonna hit each, because I assume they're gonna do that before they continue down the road.
they want to start.
Yes, so as long as I know what grant to hit, and that's what Ivan and I are gonna go over, that's fine. No problem.
Encode 10 will now help you track that, right?
Yes, it will, yes, it will. Let me start pushing
It's
out.
worth all the flack you took for that.
And the
I
only
don't know yet.
The only other things up there are the replacement of the water services. There's several people that are on board now. They have contractors that are going to scope things out before we get there, which is the
Okay.
best way to do it.
Okay, that's been done then?
No, they're working on
Working on
it.
it.
They're,
But I mean, they
Holly's
contacted
building.
people to do it.
Holly's building has got a hold of, I believe it's MJ Raymond, they told me. And I think Ufer's building, we're going to suggest they use MJ Raymond if they're going to be here. Be easier for them to jump over, get it punched out. And then Peter's going to do his himself. Just going to leave the limestone there. And there's a few other ones up there that we're in contact with that we tried to stay out of this, but there's a few that we were asking. After seeing some of this, that
You're saying the pipes need a replacing? Yeah, or you're not saying it, but that's yes, okay.
but we're kind of telling them that now's the time and you look at this. It's going to be brand new right to the edge of the building anyway, so it's really crazy not to take
Sure.
advantage of this time.
Sure.
Other than that, everything's going pretty well, a little slower than they might, but we expected it.
Well, we won't jinx you, but maybe you'll pick up some time getting down to Eastern Mountain Sports once you get
Yeah,
past the theater.
hopefully we pick up some time, and plus we're going to be up out of the ground a little further.
And you had just done a new water line, or is that a new sewer line to the Bear Hop?
Which one's?
Remember the old Swiss shop? next to Mids Park.
Oh, yeah, that has a 6-inch sprinkler line that's not that old. That's just being reconnected and the sewer is new.
That only slipped, was that 3 years ago now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's all I have.
Anything else?
You had business cards on here.
Yeah.
About that.
I was hoping we'd have the whole group here, but actually, I guess I don't have the latest sheet. Business cards, we can either keep what we've got. I just thought it was a chance, but we're gonna have 3 people getting business cards. Or we could do something that had a picture on the back. Or we can do something that's split so that there's a picture of something on one side and then the information on the other side. Or we can keep what we have. Just thought I'd bring it up.
I'm indifferent, so whatever aesthetically pleases
And
you.
when I mentioned it to Peter, Peter goes, people still use business cards?
I was thinking the same thing, but like, it would be good when you go to conferences and whatnot, so you don't have to like, hey, let me awkwardly put my number in your phone. So you just have
We
it
go to
on-
conferences for all the raffles.
Yeah.
You gotta put it in all the buckets.
Yeah, so.
That's where all my business cards go. Nobody asked me for one.
You guys use business cards still?
Pictures, identity. People want to make sure it's really you.
So you have a picture of you on your business cards that I'm getting? Yes, I'll have to go with your business cards.
Mr. Grandma. Standing in front of them.
We all have village, I don't know if the trustees and mayor have village IDs.
I-
I have.
Oh, yeah, we do it, the plastic one.
Yeah.
Do?
Mhm.
I'm waiting for the new machine.
It's in.
So is it in?
Tracy and I tested it out last week. I
And
think it was. Works great.
it seems like every time you used to go for an ID, it was 50-50 whether you were gonna get one or.
Yep.
Never working on it. Probably-
So is that going to be offered to the public for IDs?
No.
Oh, so where can you, the only place you can get an ID now is where?
DMV.
Yeah.
That's it, If you don't have a driver's license.
Can you still get the kid IDs from the sheriff's department? Do they do
The
those?
Kid Care ID, is actually the Masons have one as well. that they
Oh.
use, so.
They usually do that
But
every.
nobody's done it in a while because of COVID, so.
Oh,
And they are still talking about DMV here. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was, it probably would have been here now without COVID, but
Supposed to be up on a, what, third floor?
no, second floor.
second right next to us.
That's another thing, which we had a conversation and Peter said he was gonna talk to Jay, but I don't know if he
He's on
has.
vacation. When he gets back.
Oh, okay.
You're talking about the petition in the door.
Yeah. Because once DMV's up there, it's gonna be a lot louder and if they're not open, there will be a lot more people coming to ask us, hey, where do I go for this? Or hey, what do I do for that? So,
Yeah, it's, their office is the one you turn right, turn left. It's the first one right there on the left.
Okay.
Wasn't that the mediation room? or
no,
something?
mediation's actually still there.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. It used
Oh, that was
to be in
bingo, wasn't it?
15.
The games was
Senior
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then at one point they were using it for like tutoring. Somebody was getting tutored in there last summer. Or maybe it was 2 summers ago. I don't know, time flies.
All right, for some reason.
I took a tour of the Olympic Arena yesterday and I didn't realize it, but all the offices have been moved into the conference center. So that all, the whole big, what used to go into
It's
a.
awful.
Can you just go in?
Absolutely, no, you cannot just go in. How did you get a tour? I gave you one.
There's no mail.
I got another
What do you
one.
want?
From Terry?
But anyhow, it's
Is there a sign up?
just a point of interest. I'm sure if you gave a call. they'd
You're
probably-
not, are you saying, Jackie, I can't go in?
Do you want a tour?
Yes.
No,
Yes,
you
Rosie.
cannot go in, but. Yeah, you need a tour.
All right,
I'll
I
give
didn't,
you
I
a
didn't hear
tour.
a yes.
I'll give you a tour.
Thank you.
All it is you take where they used to have the conferences and there's cubicles set up with curtains. and-
Yeah, I just want to know and see what's going on.
But it makes sense. I mean, they're pulling them all out for the construction to relocate, which that did go through on Friday, correct?
Yes,
The,
$23
The old
million
hospital.
for the hospital. And the training center.
Mhm.
It's timing. I mean, it needs to be done in a year.
Yes.
That's a lot of work.
that's right.
Mhm.
And a lot of asbestos removal.
I was gonna say 20 of the 23 million is going to asbestos.
2.2. 2.2 is what I heard.
Wow.
Well, there was
It doesn't
asbestos,
burn.
there was asbestos in the 32 rink. I mean,
There's asbestos at the middle high school still construction. I'm not climbing around that for a while. Isn't that what you guys are doing?
And with no conferences right now, it's perfect timing.
Well, there were conferences. We had to cancel.
Did you
the
have a few?
conferences. And we have conferences April 23rd of 2023, so FISU needs to be out of there too. Everybody that canceled last year, we booked for 23.
Okay.
Just don't tell them. Wait a minute.
Anything else? Nobody? Is that because it's a sunny day? All right, great. Thanks for taking time out of your day. Beautiful day. Thanks, guys.
Oh. You sign Sharon's card.
I have not.
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to, I don't know, that's, I think, yeah, I don't know, if he wants to go and drink.
Oh, shoot, that's stop recording.
Oh, problem.
Yeah.